The alien diplomat stood silently at the edge of the viewing deck. Her large, dark eyes scanned the human warship as it floated in the endless sea of stars. She had seen hundreds of ships in her lifetime, ships from dozens of worlds, each elegant, each refined, each built with harmony in mind. But this human vessel felt different. It was sharp, heavy, and strong, like a beast of steel ready to attack. Her people had always spoken about humans with fear. In every council meeting, in every whispered conversation, one warning was, repeated again and again, humans are dangerous. Humans are violent. Do not trust them. Now she was here, standing inside one of their ships, with her heart trembling in her chest. The doors behind her opened with a hiss. A group of humans passed by, laughing loudly. Their boots struck the metal floor like thunder. The diplomat flinched at the sound. She could feel their energy, wild, fiery, almost uncontrollable. These were not calm beings. They moved like predators, always ready to fight. Her people were the opposite. They spoke softly, walked slowly, and lived without weapons. For them, peace was the highest value. For humans, it seemed, aggression was their natural state. She whispered to herself, how can such a species survive like this? From the corner of the deck, she watched human soldiers training. Their voices were sharp, filled with commands and shouts. They struck at each other with sticks and shields, moving with speed and power. Their faces were intense, full of fire. She felt her stomach twist. To her eyes, this was not training, it was chaos. It was barbaric, yet at the same time she could not look away. There was something about them, something fierce, something alive. The ship's voice spoke through the intercom. Attention, crew. Prepare for inspection. The captain will be arriving shortly. The diplomat straightened her posture. She had heard stories about human captains, brave, reckless, fearless, leaders who would rather die than surrender. They were the embodiment of what humans were, aggressive, unpredictable, dangerous. Her mind filled with doubts. Was this a mistake? Should she have refused this assignment? If humans were as violent as the stories claimed, then meeting their captain would be like walking into the den of a predator. But there was no turning back now. The galaxy needed her to be here. The diplomat's thoughts drifted to her people's warnings again. She remembered the voice of her mentor. Never trust a human smile. Behind it is a weapon. Behind it is a fighter. They do not understand. Peace. The soldiers on the training floor shouted louder. One fell hard to the ground, but instead of stopping, the others pulled him back up, and they laughed. The fallen soldier smiled despite his pain, then returned to fight again. The diplomat tilted her head, confused. Why would anyone laugh after being hurt? Why would anyone go back into pain so willingly? It made no sense. Her eyes lingered on them for a long time. Something stirred in her heart, though she could not name it yet. She turned toward the great window again. Outside, stars burned like endless fire. The human ship cut through the void with pride, carrying its crew forward with strength and determination. And there she stood, the alien diplomat, caught between fear and curiosity. Every step she had taken so far was filled with caution. But she knew that the real test was yet to come. The moment she met the human captain, she would see with her own eyes the truth behind humanity's reputation. Would he be the monster her people warned her about? Or would he be something else? Her heart raced faster at the thought. The sound of heavy boots echoed down the corridor. The soldiers stopped training. A silence fell across the deck. Even the ship seemed to hold its breath. The captain was coming. The diplomat's chest tightened. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. This was the moment she had feared, the moment she had prepared for. And yet, deep inside, a strange feeling whispered to her. Perhaps, just perhaps, the truth about humans was not as simple as she had been told. The doors at the far end of the deck slid open. A tall figure stepped inside, his shadow stretching across the floor. His eyes scanned the room with sharp focus, and for the first time, The alien diplomat saw the man who would change everything, the human captain. The captain stepped onto the training deck, and silence spread like a wave. Every human soldier stood straight, their eyes sharp, their bodies tense. The alien diplomat felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This was him, the man she had been warned about, the human captain. He was taller than she expected, his shoulders broad, his stance steady. His uniform was simple yet carried authority. His eyes, however, were what held her attention. They were piercing, bright, alive, almost burning with fire. She could feel his gaze like a blade, sharp and unflinching. For a heartbeat, she froze. This is aggression itself, she thought, but then to her surprise he spoke softly. His voice carried strength, yes, but also calm. "Welcome aboard," he said, his eyes fixed on her. "I trust the journey was safe?" The diplomat blinked. This was not the voice of a monster. It was the voice of a leader, measured and respectful. Yet beneath the calmness she still felt the hidden storm. "Yes," she replied, her words quiet. The journey was peaceful. A faint smile touched his lips. It was not mocking, not arrogant, just a small curve that suggested confidence. Still, her people's warnings echoed in her head. Never trust a human smile. The captain turned to his soldiers. "Continue," he commanded. The training resumed instantly, loud and fierce. Shouts and strikes filled the air again, the sound of aggression reborn. The diplomat flinched, but the captain remained calm, as if this chaos was natural to him. He gestured for her to walk with him. They moved through the corridors of the ship, the hum of engines beneath their feet. Everywhere she looked, humans were busy, moving quickly, speaking loudly, working with urgency. Their energy was overwhelming. "Tell me," the captain said after a moment of silence, "is this your first time on a human vessel?" "Yes," she admitted. "It is. Very different from mine." "In what way?" he asked. She hesitated. Should she speak honestly? Would her words insult him? At last she decided. "Your people are loud, intense, always moving, always pushing forward. To me, it feels like standing in a storm." The captain did not look offended. Instead, he chuckled lightly. "Yes, that is humanity. We are always reaching, always fighting for something, sometimes too much, sometimes not enough." She tilted her head. "And your aggression? Does it not destroy you?" He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. His expression hardened, but not with anger, with seriousness. "Aggression is not mindless. It is not cruelty. It is the will to stand, to protect, to survive. Without it, we would not exist. Without it, we would be gone long ago." The diplomat fell silent. His words echoed inside her, challenging everything she believed. Her people saw aggression only as violence, only as destruction. But to him, it was something more. Still, doubt remained. "But how can you build peace?" she asked carefully. "If your nature is to fight?" The captain looked at her for a long moment. His eyes softened, though the fire never left. "Because peace," he said slowly, "is worth fighting for." The words struck her like lightning. Simple, direct, yet heavy with meaning. She had never thought of peace that way. For her people, peace was natural. It simply existed. For humans, peace was not given. It was earned, defended, protected. She did not reply. Her heart beat faster, her mind tangled in confusion. They reached the observation window at the front of the ship. The stars stretched endlessly before them. The captain stood tall, hands clasped behind his back, his gaze fixed on the void. "Tell me," he said suddenly without turning, "do you fear us?" The question cut deep. She wanted to deny it, to appear strong, but her voice betrayed her. "Yes." Finally, he turned to look at her again. But instead of anger or pride, she saw something unexpected in his expression: understanding. "You are right to fear us," he said calmly. "We are dangerous, but we are dangerous because we must be. The galaxy is not kind. If we were weak, we would not have survived." Her chest tightened. For the first time, she saw humanity not as wild beasts, but as survivors. They fought not for pleasure, but because they had to. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft hum of the ship. She looked at him again, this human captain, and realized something unsettling. He was not just dangerous. He was fascinating. She whispered under her breath, almost too soft to hear, "Perhaps I do not understand humans at all." The captain glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. "Then perhaps," he said with a faint smile, "it is time you learned." Her heart skipped a beat. For the first time, curiosity overpowered her fear. The alien diplomat walked beside the captain through the long metallic corridors of the ship. Everywhere she looked, humans moved with speed and energy. Soldiers shouted orders, engineers argued over repairs, and young crew members laughed loudly as they carried heavy crates. To her it was chaos. To them it was life. She folded her hands tightly in front of her. The noise, the movement, the constant tension, it all pressed down on her mind. Among her people, silence was strength. Harmony was the natural state of life. Aggression was a sickness to be cured. Yet here, on this human vessel, aggression was not hidden. It was everywhere. Finally, she spoke. "Your people live like fire," she said quietly. "Always burning, always consuming. Do you never rest?" The captain glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Rest? Yes, we rest, but only after we fight for what matters. Fire keeps us alive." His words unsettled her. Fire to her people was dangerous and destructive. To him it was life itself. She shook her head. "Among my kind, aggression is shameful. We teach our children to avoid anger. To show violence is to lose control. Yet your people seem proud of it." The captain slowed his steps, his boots heavy against the floor. "We are not proud of violence," he said firmly. "We are proud of what we protect with it. There is a difference." She looked at him in confusion. "Explain." He stopped at a door and pressed a control panel. The metal slid open, revealing the ship's mess hall. Inside, dozens of humans sat together, eating, laughing, sharing stories. Their voices were loud, their gestures bold. The captain stepped inside, and the diplomat followed reluctantly. The high smell of cooked food filled the air, strange and sharp to her senses. Soldiers greeted the captain with nods and smiles, but their eyes flickered curiously toward the alien guest. The captain gestured to the room. "Do you see them?" She nodded slowly. "They fight because they must," he continued. "But when the fight is over, they share a table. They argue, they laugh, they live. Aggression is not all we are. It is only one part of us." The diplomat watched the humans more closely. Their laughter echoed. Their voices clashed, their hands waved wildly as they told stories. To her people, this would look like disorder. Yet there was a strange harmony in the noise, a connection she had not expected. Still, her doubts remained. "But when you fight," she asked, "how do you stop? How do you keep aggression from consuming you completely?" The captain's eyes darkened, his voice lowering. "Sometimes we don't stop. Sometimes it does consume us. That is the danger of being human. That is why we must learn discipline, why we must lead carefully. Aggression without purpose is destruction. Aggression with purpose." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "Is survival." Her chest tightened. His words carried weight, the kind that came from experience. He was not speaking as a philosopher. He was speaking as someone who had lived it, someone who had fought and bled. She looked down at her hands. Her people would never accept such thinking. To them, peace was the only path. Yet here was a species who carved peace from war, who built unity from conflict. It was a paradox she could not solve. As they left the mess hall, silence stretched between them. Finally, she said, "Perhaps your people and mine will never understand each other." The captain gave a faint smile. "Perhaps not. Or perhaps that is why you are here." She turned to him, puzzled. "Why?" "To try," he answered simply. The words lingered in her mind. To try. Not to win, not to conquer, not to prove. Simply, to try. It was such a human thing to say, full of stubborn hope. Later that night, she stood alone at the observation window staring at the stars. Her thoughts were tangled. She remembered the laughter in the mess hall, the discipline in the training room, the calm authority in the captain's voice. She remembered the fire in his eyes when he spoke about survival. Her people had told her humans were nothing but violent beasts. But what she had seen was more complicated. Aggression, yes. Fire, yes, but also loyalty, connection, even love, perhaps. And yet she could not shake the fear. She whispered to herself, "If they are truly as dangerous as we believe, then why do I feel drawn to them?" Her heart gave no answer. The door opened softly, behind her. She turned to see the captain standing there, his presence filling the room. "You cannot sleep?" he asked. "No," she admitted. He walked to stand beside her, both of them looking out at the stars. For a long moment they were silent. Two beings from different worlds, staring into the same endless sky. Finally, the captain spoke, his voice low and steady. "You are not wrong to fear us. But fear is not the whole story. Stay with us long enough, and you will see." Her eyes met his. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps the truth of humanity could not be explained with words. Perhaps it could only be understood by living it. The alien diplomat stood near the command deck when the ship's alarms began to howl. Red lights flashed across the walls, bathing everything in an eerie glow. The calm hum of the engines was suddenly drowned out by warning sirens. Her heart skipped. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The captain's voice cut through the noise, firm and steady. "All stations, battle readiness. Unknown ships approaching." The crew moved with shocking speed. Soldiers ran to their posts. Engineers shouted over each other, and screens lit up with streams of data. To the diplomat's eyes, it was chaos. But it was controlled chaos. Every human seemed to know their role. She grabbed the edge of a console, her voice trembling. "What is happening?" The captain didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on the screen ahead. "Pirates, or worse. They've been hunting in this sector for weeks. Looks like we've drawn their attention." The diplomat's stomach tightened. Pirates. Her people avoided conflict at all costs. They would flee, hide, surrender anything to keep peace. But the humans, she could see it already. They would not run. The ship jolted violently as enemy fire struck the shields. The floor trembled beneath her feet. Sparks leapt from an overhead light, showering the air with orange fire. Fear gripped her chest. "You must retreat," she cried. "We cannot face them." The captain finally turned to her, his eyes blazing with a fire that sent chills through her. "Retreat is not an option. We stand, or they will take everything." Before she could argue, the ship shuddered again. The humans were already firing back, their weapon systems roaring to life. She stumbled toward the viewing window. Out. In the blackness of space, 3 pirate ships closed in, their hulls jagged and dark. They fired again, streaks of light tearing through the void. The human ship answered with its own guns, bright explosions blooming against the enemy hulls. The battle had begun. The diplomat pressed her hands to her chest. Her people would never believe this. They would never fight like this, never face danger so directly. And yet, she could not look away. The captain barked orders, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Shields at 60%. Divert power from engines to weapons. Hold steady." The crew obeyed instantly, their movements fast, precise. She saw no fear in their faces, only focus, only determination. A blast rocked the ship again. A console nearby burst in sparks, knocking a soldier to the floor. Without hesitation, two others dragged him up and pushed him back into the fight. No hesitation, no complaint. The diplomat's breath caught. She had never seen such unity in the face of danger. Another explosion shook the deck harder this time. The ship tilted, throwing her off balance. She nearly fell, but a strong hand caught her arm. "The captain. Stay close," he said, steadying her. His voice was sharp but not unkind. Her heart pounded as she looked into his eyes. There it was again, that fire. But now she began to see it differently. Not as blind violence, but as strength. As resolve. The enemy ships closed in. One unleashed a barrage that shook the entire vessel. The lights flickered, alarms screamed, and smoke began to fill the air. "Direct hit," shouted an officer. "Hull breach on lower deck." The diplomat's fear threatened to overwhelm her. "You cannot win," she whispered. The captain turned, sharply, his voice rising like thunder. "We will win, because we must." He leapt back to his command chair, issuing orders with speed. "Fire main cannons, target their engines, don't let them board us." The ship's guns roared, shaking the walls. Through the window she saw a pirate ship burst into flames, pieces breaking apart into the void. For a moment she could only stare. Humans. They fought with such fury. Such fire. But it was not madness. It was not chaos. It was survival. Another ship moved in, ramming close. The human vessel rocked dangerously. Sparks fell like rain, and the crew fought to keep systems online. The captain's voice cut through it all. "Hold steady. We're not finished yet." The diplomat clutched the railing, her mind spinning. She had always believed aggression was barbaric, something to be feared. But watching these humans, fighting not for conquest but for each other, she felt her certainty begin to crumble. One pirate ship exploded in a storm of fire. Cheers rose from the human crew. The last enemy ship turned sharply, engines flaring as it fled into the black. Silence fell across the command deck, broken only by the heavy breathing of the crew. The alarms slowed. The red lights dimmed. The battle was over. The diplomat released the breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The captain stood tall, his uniform burned and dirtied, but his eyes still sharp. He turned to her. "This," he said simply, "is why we fight. This is what your people never understood." She stared at him, her heart thundering. For the first time, she understood what made humans feared. And for the first time, she wondered if perhaps they were right to be feared. And yet, as she looked at him, this man who had stood unshaken in the storm, she felt something else rising inside her. Not fear, something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The battle was over, but the ship was far from safe. Smoke still curled from broken panels, alarms blinked red, and injured crew members were rushed to the infirmary. The alien diplomat stood silently on the command deck, her heart still racing from the chaos she had just witnessed. She had thought the danger had passed, but she was wrong. "Captain!" an officer shouted suddenly. "The enemy left behind a boarding pod. It's latched onto the lower deck." The diplomat froze. Her stomach dropped. Boarding pod? Before she could speak, the ship jolted violently. The sound of metal tearing filled the air. The pirates weren't retreating after all. They were here. "Seal bulkheads. Prepare for close combat," the captain barked. His voice was hard, commanding but steady. His crew jumped into action, their faces grim but fearless. The diplomat's blood ran cold. She had never seen hand-to-hand battle, never been this close to violence. Her people would have surrendered immediately, but the humans, they readied their weapons with determination. The captain grabbed his sidearm and turned toward her. "Stay here, you'll be safe." She stepped forward instinctively. "No, if they are here, nowhere is safe." He gave her a long look, his eyes fierce but not unkind. "Then stay behind me." The corridor shook with the sound of boots and gunfire. Shouts echoed through the halls. The pirates had entered. The Diplomat clung to the wall as the captain led his soldiers forward. The humans fought like she had never imagined, fierce, relentless. Their aggression was raw, but it was not chaos. It was unity. They moved as one, covering each other, standing shoulder to shoulder, but the pirates were ruthless. Blasts of fire filled the hall. Sparks lit the air. One human soldier fell, then another. The Diplomat's chest tightened as she watched blood stain the floor. "Keep pushing!" the captain shouted, his voice carrying over the noise. He fought at the front, never hiding behind his crew. His weapon fired with precision, every shot protecting his soldiers. A pirate leapt from the smoke, blade raised. The captain moved faster. Then she could blink, knocking the weapon aside and striking him down. His movements were sharp, efficient, deadly. The Diplomat's breath caught. This was the aggression she had feared her whole life, but now she saw it with new eyes. This was not senseless violence. This was protection. Suddenly, a loud explosion ripped through the hall. A group of pirates had planted charges near the reactor doors. "They're going for the core," an officer cried. The captain's face hardened. "If they breach it, the whole ship goes down." Without hesitation, he charged forward, straight into the smoke and fire. The Diplomat's eyes widened in shock. "No!" she screamed, but he was already gone. The world became a blur of chaos. She pushed through the soldiers, her heart pounding. She found him locked in combat with the pirate leader, a towering figure with jagged armor and burning eyes. The captain fought fiercely, but the pirate was strong. Their blades clashed, sparks flying. The Diplomat's hands trembled as she watched. Every strike, every movement was fueled by survival. Then, in a single, brutal moment, the pirate leader lunged forward, striking deep. The captain staggered, blood spreading across his side. "No!" The Diplomat's cry tore from her throat. But the captain did not fall. With one final surge of strength, he drove his blade into the pirate's chest, ending the fight. The leader collapsed to the floor, lifeless. The remaining pirates, seeing their commander fall, broke and fled back toward their pod. The humans gave chase, driving them off the ship. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of fire and the groans of the wounded. The Diplomat rushed forward, dropping to her knees beside the captain. His face was pale, his uniform torn and bloody. Yet even now his eyes burned with the same fierce light. You are hurt," she whispered, her voice shaking. He gave her a faint smile, weak but steady. It was worth it. Her chest tightened. "Why? Why risk everything? You could have died." His gaze softened. "Because if I fall, my crew stands. If my crew stands, humanity survives. That is why." Her throat closed. She had no words. She had never known such sacrifice, such selflessness. To her people, survival meant avoiding danger. To humans, survival meant facing it, even at the cost of their own lives. Tears blurred her vision as she pressed her hands to his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "You should not do this," she whispered, "and yet I cannot look away." The captain chuckled weakly, coughing from the effort. "Now, you begin to understand us." She looked into his eyes, and for the first time, her fear broke. What replaced it was something she could not yet name. Something dangerous, something powerful, something that pulled her closer to him, even as the galaxy tried to tear them apart. The alien Diplomat sat by the captain's side in the dimly lit infirmary. The steady hum of medical machines filled the air, broken only by the soft beeping of monitors tracking his heartbeat. His uniform had been cut away and bandages wrapped his wounded side. She had never been this close to a human before, never touched one. Yet now her hands shook as she pressed a damp cloth to his forehead, wiping away the sweat. His skin was warmer than hers, his breathing rough but strong. He had nearly died for his crew. He had nearly died for her. Her people would never understand this. They would call it madness. To throw oneself into danger for others was unthinkable. Yet here he was, broken and bleeding, because he had chosen to protect instead of retreat. She whispered to herself, "This is not barbaric. This is not meaningless." The captain stirred, his eyes opening slightly. Even weakened, his gaze burned with that familiar fire. "You're still here," he murmured. "Yes," she said quickly, leaning closer. "I could not leave." He gave a faint smile. "Most would run from us. You stay." Her chest tightened. She wanted to tell him why she stayed, but the words caught in her throat. She did not yet understand it herself. Instead, she asked softly, "Why do you always risk so much? Why throw your life away?" His answer came slowly, each word heavy with truth. "Because life is not only mine. My crew depends on me. You depended on me. That is enough." She lowered her head, her heart pounding. Enough. For her people, enough meant survival. For humans, enough meant sacrifice. Hours passed. She remained beside him, tending to his wound, listening to the rhythm of his breath. At times, he drifted into sleep, but even then his hand twitched as if ready to fight again. The diplomat studied his face carefully. The lines of strain, the scars of old battles, the strength that did not fade even in weakness. She had once thought humans were only fire and fury, creatures of rage. But now she saw more. Beneath the fire was loyalty. Beneath the fury was love. And for the first time she felt something she had never felt before. Admiration. And perhaps something even deeper. Her people's voices echoed in her mind. Never trust a human's smile. Behind it is violence. Yet here was a human who had smiled at her even while bleeding, a man whose violence had saved her life. How could that be a lie? The door opened, and a young officer entered quietly. "Ambassador," he said respectfully, "the captain needs rest. You should return to your quarters." She shook her head. "I will stay." The officer hesitated, then nodded and left. She turned back to the captain, who was watching her with tired eyes. "You don't have to," he whispered. Her voice was steady now. "I want to." His lips curved into the faintest smile before he drifted back into sleep. The diplomat sat there in silence, her thoughts heavy. She had come aboard this ship filled with fear. She had believed the humans were nothing but dangerous creatures of war. But now she saw that their aggression was not cruelty. It was survival, sharpened into a weapon of protection. And in that protection, she saw beauty. She brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead, her fingers trembling. "I feared your kind," she whispered softly, though he could not hear. "But you are not what they told me. You are more." The stars beyond the window glowed faintly, casting silver light across his face. She felt the universe shifting inside her. The world she had known was falling away, replaced by something new, something human. Her chest ached with the realization. She had not only begun to understand humans, she had begun to feel for one. But it was dangerous. If her people knew, they would call her a traitor. If the galaxy knew, they would call her a fool. And yet, as she looked at the man before her, she could not deny it. Her heart no longer feared him. Her heart wanted him. And in that moment, she understood something greater than politics, greater than fear. Aggression was not the greatest danger in humanity. Love was. Because love was the one force strong enough to break all barriers. And she was already falling into it. The alien diplomat stood at the wide observation deck, her eyes fixed on the stars beyond. Days had passed since the attack. The ship had been repaired, the wounded tended, and the crew returned to their duties. Yet inside her nothing felt the same. She was no longer the same. Once she had feared humanity. She had believed they were nothing more than violent creatures, ruled by aggression. But now, every memory of the battle, every moment by the captain's side, told her a different truth. Humans were dangerous, yes, but their danger was not aimless. It was rooted in love, in loyalty, in sacrifice. Behind her, the door slid open. She did not need to turn to know who it was. His presence filled the room before he spoke. "You spend a lot of time here," the captain said, his voice calm, though softer than before. His wound still slowed him, but his strength was returning with every day. She glanced at him, then back at the stars. "It is quiet here, peaceful. It helps me think." He stepped closer, his boots echoing lightly on the floor. "And what do you think about?" She hesitated. For so long she had hidden her thoughts, buried them beneath duty and fear. But now, hiding felt impossible. "I think about you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Silence fell between them. The stars burned brighter outside, as if listening. Finally, the captain spoke, his tone low but steady. "And what have you decided about me?" Her chest tightened. She turned, meeting his eyes. They were the same eyes she had once feared. Sharp, fiery, unyielding. But now she saw the truth within them. Strength, yes. Danger, yes. But also kindness, compassion. A depth of love she had never known could exist. "I decided," she said slowly, "that my people were wrong. You are not monsters. You are not barbarians. You are human, and there is nothing more dangerous and nothing more beautiful than that." For the first time, the captain's expression softened into something she had never seen before. Not just a smile, but warmth. A warmth that reached her, filled her, and pulled her closer. He took a step toward her. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you would leave us at the first sign of trouble. But you stayed." She lowered her gaze. "I stayed because I wanted to understand, but now, I stay because I cannot imagine leaving." Her words trembled in the air. His hand reached out, slow and careful, until it rested against hers. His touch was warm, strong, steady. She felt her breath catch, her heart racing. "I warned you," he said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Humans are dangerous." She smiled faintly, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Yes, and that is why I love you." The words escaped before she could stop them. Once spoken, they could not be taken back. Her heart pounded in fear, not of him, but of what she had admitted. But the captain did not pull away. His grip on her hand tightened, his voice low and sure. "Then we are both in danger, because I love you too." The moment hung between them, fragile and infinite. Outside, the stars burned brighter, as if the galaxy itself bore witness to their bond. The diplomat felt her fears dissolve. All the warnings, all the doubts, all the walls she had built around her heart, they crumbled. What remained was simple, undeniable truth. She had come to this ship fearing humans. She would leave it loving one. For the first time, she did not fear their aggression. She understood it. She accepted it. And she loved it, because it was part of him. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his arms wrapped around her, steady and protective. And in that embrace, she felt more at peace than she ever had in her life. Perhaps her people would never understand. Perhaps the galaxy would never forgive. But here, in this moment, none of that mattered. Because love had no borders, no fear, no barriers, only truth. And in that truth, an alien diplomat and a human captain found something greater than survival, greater than fear. They found each other.